Okay, bear with me. We're about to jump down the George Santos rabbit hole. I know that everybody's probably doing that today, but the guy's nuts. I can't ignore this one. It's so fun. Yeah, I know. It's everywhere. But the New York Post has an exclusive interview with Congressman-elect George Santos. And I just love that it opens with the quote, "I'm not a criminal." Okay, that's not a good way to start out your exclusive interview when you haven't even been sworn into office yet. You're a politician, a newly minted politician. You've just now been elected. I think it's his first time being elected to anything. And he's already having to say he's not a criminal. If you remember, old Richard Milhouse Nixon did not utter a similar statement until the final days of his political career. So let me just try and work out all the things that he's accused of being lied of, or has admitted lying about. So the first thing that's getting the most attention is apparently he claimed to be Jewish, and he's not Jewish. That, of course, is what the media cares the most about. I'll leave, you can figure out why they might care about the most. I'll just let you come to your own conclusions as far as that's concerned, but that's what the media cares about the most. That's what people on Twitter care about the most. He said he was Jewish. He's not Jewish. Next up, he also claimed to be gay. There is now reason to believe that he's not gay. So it's kind of funny. I mean, those are normally two things that politicians in the past would try and keep in the closet, that they were gay Jews. This guy is claiming to be a gay Jew. He's now being accused of not being a gay Jew. Pretty funny. The next thing is his resume, his past job experience. He claimed to have worked for Goldman Sachs and Citigroup and be some big, financial hotshot Wall Street banker, the next Jeffrey Epstein. And it turns out he apparently worked for neither Goldman Sachs nor Citigroup. I'm going through all this stuff fast, all these accusations, just so I can get them out and make sure that I mention them in case I forget to go over them later. Because there's a lot to get to here. There's a lot to unpack. So then after his resume, of course, you look back to his education experience. Okay, so he didn't work at Goldman Sachs or Citigroup, but maybe he still has his degree from whatever university he went to, right? It was something I hadn't heard of. I assume it's some Northeast school. Probably somewhat prestigious because he actually lied about attending there. Because so I mean, you would think if you're lying about where you went to college, it's probably a decent place that you would want people to know you went. Yeah, he didn't go to college at all. He never graduated. He has no certificate of higher learning. I think that was his words that he used. And then I think this is the last thing. Actually, second to last thing. This is the last thing he's accused of lying about is being some kind of real estate mogul. He apparently claimed to have owned 13 properties. Turns out he owns 0. In fact, he doesn't even own his own home or his own condo or co-op, whatever they call them in New York. I think they're co-ops usually. He actually lives with his sister. So he's living with his family. But he says he plans to buy a home in the near future. Oh, you mean now that you're making a 6-figure salary as a congressman, now you plan to purchase your own home? Okay. Oh, actually, there are 2 more things I forgot about. So he owes $12,000 in back rent to his old landlord, and he was, I guess, evicted and ordered by a judge to pay the money. And when asked if he ever paid that money, that $12,000 that he owed in back rent from, I guess he spent 7 months not paying his rent. I'm dying here. It's so comical. How is there this much? How did the Democrats just not talk about any of this during the election? This is all coming out within a week before he's supposed to be sworn in. I'm beside myself. So anyway, she's asked, did you ever pay back this $12,000? He said, no, in fact, I completely forgot about it. He didn't even remember that he owed $12,000, that he's $12,000 in debt. And what was his excuse for not paying $12,000 in back debt? Well, he said, well, at the time, I was deeply in debt. It's like, oh, okay, so there's even more debt that you don't... I mean, could this debt be used maybe as leverage against you to force you to vote for certain things while you're in Congress? Don't you think that maybe if you're severely in debt, so much so that you can't even pay your own rent, that, you had to be evicted and now you're living with your sister, don't you think that that might be a conflict of interest? Don't you think that your creditors might be able to extort, some kind of voting out of you? And of course, his answer to all this is no. Of course, none of the stuff that I lied about has anything to do with my with my ability to represent the people of New York's 3rd Congressional District. Now, I will grant him, I doubt that he's a bigger crook than the average New York politician, but the fact that there's just all this stuff right on the surface is hilarious. I got to give the boy props for how brazen he is. So, getting back, I guess I'm going to try and go through all the allegations now one at a time. I guess we'll start with the Jewish thing. So, on his website, his campaign website, he claimed that his grandparents escaped the Holocaust. They fled the Holocaust in Europe and came to America. I haven't seen anybody actually dispute that. And I'll link to the New York Post interview in the description. You can go read it there. I haven't seen this exact claim that his parents fled the Holocaust, or his grandparents fled the Holocaust, and that his mother was Jewish. I haven't seen that disputed. But apparently, Santos was passing himself off as a Jew himself. And he spoke before the Republican Jewish Caucus, Congressional Caucus, I think that is, or maybe it's Republican Jewish Coalition, who has now denounced him, by the way. They said that he lied about his heritage and that they essentially voted him out of the tribe. So, not very inclusive, this Republican Jewish Caucus. They don't seem to like people unless they are racially pure. And, here I thought Judaism was conveyed through the mother. There's a lot of secular Jews who are still considered Jews. They're still considered to be a part of the club. They are team players. Yet this Santos guy is not. I'm not entirely sure about that. Maybe they're disputing that his mother was Jewish at all. Because, last I checked, those were the rules. If your mom's Jewish, you get to be a Jew too. Now, his children, unless he marries a Jewish woman, they would not be considered Jewish. But anyway, no matter what, the elders of not the elders of Zion, I'm sorry, this stuff is just so comical. I mean, it's the elders of the Republican Jewish Coalition or Jewish Caucus, whatever. I mean, it's just there's so many jokes to be made here that I'm not making intentionally. But I'll say that what's more ridiculous is the reaction to this guy posing as a Jew and potentially not being one. All it shows to me is that racism is alive and well in America. And it very much is, this story is reinforcing the idea that Jewish people are an outgroup, very distinct from other Americans, and that, unless you are definitely a strict member of the club, you're completely different, and you are to be excommunicated, and you are not welcome in their institutions. He's not even. They said they won't even have him at any of their events. Even as a non-Jewish observer, which apparently they have from time to time. So, as I said before, this is the bulk of what the media is talking about. Is he a Jew? Is he not a Jew? Frankly, I don't really care. I mean, I think that that's the least consequential thing on this whole list. Is he a Jew? Is he not a Jew? But that's what the media cares about, just so you know. That's not me focusing on that. That's them. So let's move on to the next accusation. Oh, by the way, on the Jewish thing, on the final note on the Jewish question, how many more Holocaust jokes can I make today? I think about it. I could have made a lot more. Anyway, he claims that he is a practicing Catholic, which I find very odd considering his next statement right after this. The next section, after we find out the conclusion, okay, he may be of Jewish heritage, but he's a practicing Catholic, so he's not a practicing Jew. But I don't think that makes him any less Jewish than like an atheist Jew, of which there are many atheists who are considered to be Jews in full communion with Jerusalem. Anyway. where was I? Oh, yeah. So practicing Catholic claims to be very much gay. Now, that part I find a little strange. Okay, sure. You're a Presbyterian, you're an Episcopalian. Okay, yeah. Those churches are, hardly Christian. Okay, yeah. You can be a devout Presbyterian and be very much gay. I could see that. Be a devout Catholic, be very much gay? That's weird. I don't get that. I don't know how that works. I mean, hasn't your priest, sat you down and said, son, you should reconsider your decisions in life? Do you go confess every week? Right, because the Catholics do that. They're supposed to confess their sins every week. Do you go every week to your priest and tell him about, all the gay sex you've been having? I doubt that. That would be really weird. That'd be really awkward. In fact, it would be so uncomfortable that I would think if I were a gay guy, I would stop going to a Catholic church because I would not like to have to confess my sins every week, and tell my priest, because he'll recognize my voice after a while. He'll know, oh yeah, that's that gay guy who sits, in the third row, and I would not want him to know all the details of my debauched sexual outings. I don't want to tell Father O'Malley about this cutie that I met at the bathhouse this week. So I don't get that. Those two things don't square to me. Catholic, gay, I don't know. Maybe in New York that's totally normal. But anyway, the gay part is apparently there's a bone of contention about that. There's a lot of people who say, you know what, he's not gay at all. In fact, he was married to a woman. He's a filthy heterosexual. That gay Jew is actually a straight Catholic, many people are saying. And I'd say, considering he was married to a woman officially until the first time he decided to run for Congress, or actually, I don't know if it was for Congress, but it was for political office at all. And he ran for something in 2020, and he lost. He ran for something in 2022, and he won. But he got divorced right before that. He made sure, you know what? No, I'm not married to a woman. And he's run as an openly gay Jew. Now, I don't know. It could be. There are a lot of guys, who marry women and then they decide. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. There are some who marry women and then they go, you know what? This isn't for me. I made a mistake here, and then they leave their wife and children for another man. I mean, as we saw, these can be very sympathetic characters, as portrayed by Brendan Fraser in The Whale. So it is possible that George Santos is just another whale. But I don't think that he's going to be cracking the scales at 600 pounds anytime soon. So where do we go next? Well, I guess I already said that he didn't work for Goldman or Citigroup. It turns out that he worked for a third company and apparently referred a couple of clients to Citigroup or Goldman Sachs. So essentially, he was at working in another company, and he was working with someone, a customer, and they said, you know what, I think I need some money. I have good cash flow, but I don't have the money right up front. And he said, you know what, I got an idea. Why don't you go get a loan? And then he looked up on Google. He said, where's the nearest bank? And then Goldman Sachs or Citigroup comes up, and he goes, oh, you know what? Here's the address of a bank. Why don't you go walk down the street and go ask them for a loan? Or at least that's what it seems like, because he gave some BS answer about how they're limited partnerships that we engaged with. I directed clients their way. It's like, okay, so you referred some people to a bank to get their services. You said, hey, I know a bank that you can use. It's called Goldman Sachs. It's called Citibank. They're down the street. Actually, they're probably quite a few blocks away, because this guy doesn't seem like he worked for any, super high-end company. So he probably wasn't even on Wall Street at all. So his clients, in order to get to Goldman or Citi, they probably didn't even have to walk. They probably couldn't even just walk down the street. They probably had to go down in the subway and take a train. And then, as I mentioned before, I don't think there's really anything else to say about his real estate life. He owns no property. Need I say more? He lives with his sister. Need I say more? So the guy's a total fraud. He's a clown. But I I respect him for embracing it, owning up to it, and saying, you know what? Yeah, I lied about everything to get elected, but I'm elected now, so who the hell cares? I got 2 years here. I'm going to collect my pension. I got the meal ticket, baby. I'm making a 6-figure salary now. I'm going to go buy a house. And so I give him credit. The only thing is that maybe the House could not seat him. They might do that. They might say, you know what, we're not going to seat you because you lied. It wouldn't be unprecedented. They did that to, Adam Clayton Powell, another New York congressman who was unpopular amongst a certain group of people. Of course, there's a road named after him in New York City now, so I guess he got the last laugh. But I think that this guy, he made it past the tough part. He got elected. He is there now. And so who cares if they don't put him on any committees? Why would you care? I mean, the guy's there, obviously, because he was broke. He was on his butt. He had nothing to do. He just wanted to get in there. He's going to get in there, and he will be the... I don't think he'll be the most corrupt politician because he's just not that smart. I don't think. I don't think that he's that talented of a guy. So he probably won't be able to maximize his corruption in the way like Nancy Pelosi has. But he'll do his best to be corrupt. His door will be open to anyone and everyone who wants to bribe him, give him money. I mean, as far as he's concerned, he understands. Heck, you get to Washington, that's the meal ticket. He is upfront about that. He's not there to bullshit you. He's fully embraced at this point. He's saying, you know what? I'm going to be a one-term guy. I don't care. I'm in here. I'm going to make my money, and then I'm going to go home. Simple as that. You know what? He probably won't even go back to New York. He'll probably move to Florida, along with all the other crooks from New York. So bravo. My hat's off to you. I wish that I could hustle this well. So with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.